I like idec so much, especially having looked at the themes and the kind of speakers that you have invited. Reading their profile was quite enriching, and it's so motivating. And I really want to be able to connect with these people, share ideas, brainstorm, and see how we can improve democratic education. Yeah, because my interest is basically on citizenship education and majorly for Africa, Kenya, South Africa, in higher education. So that's really my interest. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to brainstorming with idec participants, the coffee talks, the workshops, and I'm really much more interested in being able to talk with people, especially the practitioners, the teachers, to see how whether this makes sense to them and how they do it and the challenges through democratic education. My dream really, especially, I want to look at the African context, especially Kenya, where we have had a myriad occurrence of post-election violence, where we have a lot of people getting killed, and this is on news, it's on newspapers, it's written on books, it's appearing on some of my research, where you find people were killed, like 3,000 people killed because of election violence. And digging deep into the cause of this, much comes into be ethnic mobilization, like mobilization of politics towards ethnic inclination. And this has been able to sort of bring about disagreements, and tracing that to the history of colonization and the colonial influence, alienation of people, and the recurring event, and up to the point where Kenya feels we are a democratic country, we are free, we are independent country, and we get into democratic dispensation where we have multi-partyism and all that stuff, and now we get people fighting and killing themselves, and and it always happens after elections. So I'm asking the question, how can education prepare citizens to deal with this recurrence of violence in education? I mean, yeah, in the country. So I'm sort of saying that can higher education, that is research and what we teach, or how we prepare our students in higher institutions, how could that help them to counter the socio-political anomalies that and imbalances that we find in society? Because then what's the role of education? So so I'm looking forward to hearing people's views on how we can deal with such issues. Yeah, and looking at the Vision 2030, Kenya aims to achieve equity and just society and just governance. That's really their aim. But then we ask the question, how can we get there? And then I say, can democratic citizenship education, for example, help us as a country to deal with this issue? So really, I really want to brainstorm, and it's not only in Kenya. Reading books, we have countries like Mali who have gone through the same thing, Libya has gone through the same thing, Egypt is going through the same thing, Nigeria is going through the same thing, either religious, ethnic, and why the violence, why the conflict, and how can we solve them amicably? Can education be, can education be a process that can prepare citizens or students, learners to be able to be accountable? You see, so for me, looking at issues of equity, issues of justice, and issues of quality can help us to appreciate one another and be able to see it differently, where we are not going to begin to fight, but understand possibly our humanity, take our humanity as a center stage, that we can respect one another and reciprocate without necessarily denying each other the right of life to live, and things like that. So I'd like to hear from idec people, people who are attending idec, both participants and brainstorming during the workshops, and even during the keynote speech, I want to hear what do people think about this. Does America experience the same? Does Korea experience the same? And how do they deal with them? And yeah, so brainstorming those kinds of notions are really my focus. How can we have just societies where the minority and the marginalized can actually be recognized and their voices be heard to form policy for policy formulation?